Hi, everyone. I think we're good to start. My name is Jenna Schulman, and I'm an independent educational consultant or a college coach in the tri-state area of New York and New Jersey. And I am hosting these college spotlight events all summer long. So if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome. If this is not your first time, then I'm sorry for repeating my introduction once again. But I am pleased to have Indiana University today. And we have Brandy Samaru, who represents a lot of the Northeast and New England area. And I'll have her introduce herself as an admissions officer at Indiana. And a special guest, Rob Natal. He is my former student from way back in, like 4 years ago. So he just finished his junior year at Indiana, although he was in Madrid until COVID-19 happened. Unfortunately, he had to come home early. So I guess hasn't been in Bloomington for a little while, but he is a business major at Indiana. And after Brandy presents, we'll talk to Rob and have him talk about his experience in the business school socially at Indiana. And I'm going to monitor questions and answers the entire time. So if you have them for Brandy, if you have them for Rob, please put them in the chat and we will get to as many as we can by the end. So I will turn it over to Brandy first. And thanks for joining us. I know you're busy with a child at home, so.
Yes, thank you for having me. And yes, if any of you hear something in the background, I have an 11-month-old and a 4-year-old who thinks he's a dinosaur, so that's what's going on in the background. But before we do get started today, just a little bit about myself. I am Brandy Samaru, like she said. I'm a Senior Assistant Director of Admissions for IU. I am regionally based on the East Coast, so I am based out of New Jersey, and I do represent all of the Northeast except for Massachusetts. So I took a look at the roster and most of you are my students. So I welcome any questions that you have. While this is kind of formal, it's not really formal. I am not a formal person. So please send in those questions and we'll try to get to those questions as they come in. I do have a PowerPoint. I'll kind of share my screen in a minute. If we don't get through the PowerPoint, totally fine. But I just feel in these sessions, it's nice to have something to look at. And before I begin though, the admissions office did come up with a statement that I do feel necessary to read at this point in time. So I just want to share that statement with you before we begin. We share our wish for the health and safety of you and your family as we witness the continued unrest resulting from the COVID-19 crisis and the acts of racism and hate across our nation. At IU, the benefit we all receive from the diversity of our community is a central component of our academic mission, and acts of hatred and intolerance will be powerfully condemned. We continue to work to ensure that our campus communities are places where differences of all kinds, whether of race, ethnicity, or belief, are respected, valued, and protected. Within the Office of Admissions, honoring and celebrating the dignity of each student through the process and programs we design is at the very core of our work. We appreciate this opportunity to tell you more about Indiana University and all the experience that await you. So I am thrilled to be here with you today, but I really did feel that is an important statement at this time for me to share with you. So with that being said, let me go ahead and share my screen. Keep those questions coming in. I do see we already have one question in the Q&A, and I am prepared to address that throughout this as well. So fingers crossed with some technology here. Hang on. There we go. There we go. All right. So at Indiana University, not only will you live on an amazing campus, but in a diverse and welcoming community that sets us apart from most schools. We have students, a member of our student population of 33,000 undergraduate students from all 50 states and more than 140 different countries are represented on our campus. So all of these students are coming from varying cultural, political, socioeconomic, and ethnic backgrounds. We are a university rich in history and tradition. We were established in 1820, so we're actually going through our bicentennial this year, which is very exciting for us. We were built on a strong tradition of excellence and innovation both in and out of the classroom. From nationally recognized academic programs to Division I varsity athletics, all on one of the most beautiful college campuses in the country. IU will offer you the best of both worlds. So academically, you will be able to study at a prestigious university with the flexibility that encourages your creativity and exploration. We offer 12 schools and colleges at IU with world-renowned academic programs. And I'll let Rob definitely highlight the Kelley School of Business, but a couple of other ones that some students come to us for are the O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs. This school prepares students for leadership and management and government, nonprofit organizations, business, healthcare, environmental sciences, the policy, and the arts. So that's a really exciting school on our campus. Perhaps our largest school on campus would be the College of Arts and Sciences as well. It has more than 80 undergraduate majors in disciplines such as literature, biology, religious studies, mathematics. All those kinds of majors would fall underneath the College of Arts and Sciences. So there's a wide variety of schools and opportunities on our campus. So within these 12 different schools, we do offer more than 200 different majors for students to choose from. There are ways for you to specialize in all these areas too, by double major, triple major, several minors as well. The great thing is you can do this across schools. So you could be a business major, but you could also pick up something in our School of Public Environmental Affairs or our School of Informatics. So there's a great way to really design and personalize and make your education your own on our campus. You're going to have the opportunity to do this by taking more than 4,000 courses each semester. So there's a lot of variety. A student can't say they didn't graduate because they couldn't get the classes that they wanted. We offer a wide variety of classes and opportunities for you. Nearly 60% of our incoming IU students will enter into Indiana University through our university division, which Rob can also highlight as well. Students who enter through university division have a lot of freedom and opportunities to explore. This means that a student wasn't directly admitted into their program, which is totally fine and something that's highly encouraged on our campus. So the majority of our students go that route, but we do offer direct admit programs as well, which I can talk a little bit more about in the application process. Important thing here is know that it's a two-step process. You're admitted to the university, and then we forward your application onto that program, and they will review you for direct admittance into their program, okay? A little different than some other schools, so again, we can talk about that in more detail as well. Important thing, we really want you to personalize your career at IU. So just a little bit about some support services on our campus. Number one would be our faculty, for sure. So we're not large school, definitely. Big 10, Division I, but our average class size, 30 students. Student to faculty ratio, 16:1. So we do our best to take that 33,000 students and make it feel much smaller for you. Make it feel more like you have that personalized attention, and you do with our faculty on our campus. Our amazing faculty will teach you in a variety of class sizes and settings. They have that one-on-one instruction, they have seminars, there are lectures. But again, important thing, fewer than 6% of our classes have 100 or more students. So even though we're large, we're gonna make it feel as small as possible for you. So your faculty are also going to be available outside of the classroom as well. They hold weekly office hours, they sponsor clubs and organizations, and they even adopt residence hall floors. Your faculty will be involved and they have a passion for teaching and learning. So get to know your faculty. That's probably their number one complaint, is that students don't utilize them. These professors have been out in the real world doing what they're teaching. They have great connections. And they want to share those connections with you, but you have to ask for it. So get to know your faculty. So a little bit more about support. That's going to start right off the bat when you enter our campus. Academic support. You're going to have access to academic advisors who specialize in your area of study. Should you change your major, you'll get a new academic advisor that specializes in that area as well. So advising, we know that students need to be able to get advising right when they need it. So they're going to offer you a variety of options from one-on-one, small group advising, phone, email, even walk-in sessions. And many of our academic advisors will even have office hours in your residence hall neighborhood. So they're going to be right there as you go downstairs in your pajamas if you need to go see your academic advisor. It's totally fine. They're going to be right there for you to provide that support. Academic support centers, tutoring. It's going to offer you tutoring and locations in your residence hall neighborhood, offering free individual and group tutoring sessions. Our student academic centers offer individualized academic assessment and assistance, as well as classes and workshops, such as learning strategies for math, which I always joke that I could have used that class, but seriously, I still could use that class. So take advantage of these resources too. We've got a lot of great free resources for students. You just need to take advantage of them. One of my favorite places on campus when I was a student was perhaps the Herman B. Wells Library. This is a great hub of activity for our students. It is one of 24 on-campus libraries on our campus. It is our main library, and it's home to the Wells Library Learning Commons. It's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with individual, group, and multimedia workstations. It's also the size of nearly 6 NCAA basketball courts. So it's a huge place and a huge hub of activity for our students, like I said. So one of the questions I get a lot is about our Hutton Honors College. Yes, we have an honors college. And much like our direct admit programs, it's not a program you have to apply to separately. We're going to automatically review you for that whenever you apply to campus. What this is going to do is you're essentially taking advantage of a smaller liberal arts college with all of the resources of a big research institution. So you'll have smaller class sizes, you'll have an additional academic advisor, and you'll be able to take advantage of some additional grants and scholarships for study abroad and research opportunities and things like that. You also get to sit down with some of our visiting guest lecturers and dignitaries that come to campus. So I'm not going to really spend a lot of time on this because we do have a fantastic student with us. But just a couple of things I want to highlight is that we have a lot going on campus. And we certainly, when you go to school, academics should be your #1 priority. But to be a well-rounded student, you've got to have things to do outside of the classroom. And we are in no short supply of those activities. You see here over 750 student clubs and organizations. We have more than 55 club and intramural sports that you can get involved in as well. We're also very big when it comes to art and culture. So you have more than 1,500 artistic and cultural performances that you can take part in, from our world-renowned Jacobs School of Music, operas, ballet, voice, and instrument recitals. Our IU Auditorium is going to bring in those professional productions, popular music groups, cultural performances, guest lectures, examples such as Chicago, Trevor Noah, Chance the Rapper. They've all been a part of the IU Auditorium series. So lots of great opportunities for students. Of course, another question I get is, do IU students, are they giving back to the community? Yes, we pride ourselves on community service. I know many high schools require students to do it, and students get a passion for that, and they want to continue that whenever they go to college. So perhaps one of our biggest traditions is actually a fundraiser for the community. It's the IU Dance Marathon, and this is where every November, students will dance for 36 hours straight to raise money for the Riley Children's Hospital. Since its inception in 1991, this organization has generated more than $40 million for the hospital. So this is a great way for our students to give back to the community. So just to touch a little bit on some of the diversity on campus, you're going to be able to see some of that on our campus as soon as Welcome Week starts. And that is the week prior to classes. So during Welcome Week, our campus and the community come together for Cultural Fest. This is a unique celebration of culture and diversity. It makes us one of the most international campuses and universities in the country. At Culture Fest, student organizations, campus culture centers, and local restaurants unite to help new and returning students experience the unique and diverse culture that is IU. So our students also have amazing school spirit, and this is probably perhaps one of my favorite places on campus as well. Even if you don't like basketball, there's nothing like walking into Assembly Hall for the first time or the 100th time. So you have to check it out whenever you're on campus. But we're Big Ten, like I said, Division I. We have 24 varsity men's and women's athletic teams that make us proud to wear that cream and crimson. So something else for you to check out on our campus for sure. So just a little bit about some career services, because, you know, the end goal here is to make sure you have a job, right? So we are going to be able to help prepare you to do that. You don't want to go to school for 4 years somewhere and not have that end goal of being able to have a job afterwards. So we help you with that right out of the gate too. Come to campus, that first day you step on campus, you can step foot in one of our career development centers. We have 12 of them on our campus for you to take advantage of. So there's a lot of great resources as far as that's concerned. They're going to help you as far as finding internships. They're going to help you with mock interviews. They'll help you with some resume writing skills and some career coaching. We also bring more than 1,300 recruiters and employers to campus annually to recruit our students for internships and jobs. So that's definitely available for you. As far as those students that are looking onto those professional areas of study, such as medicine, such as law, something in the physician's assistant's field, dentistry, optometry, things like that. This is where these services will help you as well. We have our Health Professions and Pre-Law Center. We call it HIPLIC for short. This is a specialized advising area for students to help you gain entrance into these professional areas of study. So what they're going to do right off the bat, if you don't know what you want to major in, they're going to help you pick that major. If you do know what you want to major in, they're going to make sure you're taking the appropriate courses within that major so you can apply to these programs. They're going to help you prepare your applications. They're going to help you prepare for the entrance exams and help prep you for any interviews that you might have to go through. So it's more of a track system on our campus than it is an actual major. But students that utilize the center have a much higher acceptance rate into these programs. So again, something I highly encourage students to take advantage of. So before I turn it over to Rob, I do want to quickly go over the application process with you, because I know that that's going to be coming up really soon. Even though we're all living in this uncertain time, we know that you're still looking at colleges and that you want to know how to apply to these colleges. While there's a lot of uncertainty about the application process, one thing that is for sure is our application will go live on August 1, and there will be 3 ways that you can apply, just like before. So we have our own application, we have the common application, and we're also on the coalition application. All of the 3 are reviewed the same. Please only submit 1 application. Every year we have students that submit multiple applications, and that does nothing but slow up the process. So only submit that 1 application. So as far as what you need to send in, it's the online application, it's the application fee, and which I believe is going to still be $65 next year, unless you have that fee waiver from one of the appropriate fee waiver resources. Your official high school transcript, which will come from your high school, and SAT or ACT scores if applicable to you. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute as well. So we are early action non-binding. What that means for us is if a student completes an application by our early action date of November 1, you're given priority consideration for admission and you're being reviewed for scholarship money. After November 1, no more scholarship money. So make sure that if you're interested in scholarship money, that you're completing that application by November 1. So as far as what we consider, this hasn't changed. We're still a holistic approach campus, but we do primarily make our admissions decisions based upon those academics. So we're looking for at least 34 college preparatory credits in courses such as English, math, science, social science, and a foreign language. Your weighted or unweighted GPA, we're going to take the best, whatever your school sends us, that's the GPA we're going to use. The application essay, it is a supplemental essay. It's 200 to 400 words, and it's very open-ended. We just want to know a little bit more about you, something we can't get based upon that high school transcript. And then the SAT or ACT. Now, prior to the pandemic, Indiana University had already decided to go test optional. So we've been kind of working this out for a while now. But there are still a lot of unknowns because we did have to switch gears when the pandemic hit and make sure that our current students were taken care of. So the important thing to know about applying test optional, if you don't know if you should, please reach out to your admissions counselor. For most of you, that's going to be me. If you do apply test optional, you will still be reviewed for scholarship money. So that's a key takeaway there as well. You're not impacted negatively if you decide not to send in test scores, okay? So again, it's kind of case by case. So if you're not really for sure, please reach out to me or reach out to your admissions counselor. Just to kind of give you an idea, these are our middle 50% ranges for last year for admitted students. So if you're thinking, should I or shouldn't I send in my test scores? I would say that if your GPA is within this range, you might be a good candidate for not sending them in if your test score is on the little bit lower side, okay? But again, we can talk about that individually. This kind of just breaks down a little bit the timeline here. So students that complete by November 1, guaranteed that decision by January 15th. By February 1, our regular decision date, you're guaranteed that decision by March 15th. And after February 1, it is a case-by-case, space available basis only. So the important takeaway here, November 1, interested in scholarship money, get that application in, all right? After February 1, not only are you not considered for scholarship money, but it is space available only. And I will share that this year we actually have received the most intent to enroll that we've ever received in the history of IU. So we are still an option for students, and we do still have students that are wanting to come to campus as well. So keep those dates in mind. Just a little bit about scholarships. We do offer them. This is something that I do encourage you to check out the scholarships website. It's scholarships.indiana.edu. We offer academic scholarships. We offer based upon your high school work. We offer scholarships specific to your school or program, as well as some specialized scholarships as well. And we do stack those up to the full cost of attendance. Also for financial aid, just making sure that you fill out that financial aid form. It is due on or before April 15th. And then I believe that my contact information should come up here. And of course, I'll take a look at the Q&A as well and see if there's any questions that I can answer, but I'll turn it back over.
Brandy, I actually have some questions about the admissions process that I know a lot of people ask me throughout the year, so I would love to just get them answered now. One, is it still rolling admissions, and what does that mean if it is for students?
So technically, we are going by the term early action non-binding. So that's a November 1 date for us. However, we do kind of review on a rolling basis. So what that means is we don't hold for one notification date. As soon as an application is complete, we start that review process. So usually we start rolling out decisions that first week in October. So any student that applies from August 1 to November 1 is reviewed the same. They just might receive their decision a little bit quicker.
Okay, so it doesn't put them at an advantage if they apply on August 1st at 8 a.m. when the application opens versus on Halloween or something.
It does not.
Okay.
One of the reasons for the August 1 date is one, that's when the Common App opens. And so we've kind of been following that. But two, in Indiana, in the Midwest, schools start a lot earlier. So students are able to complete those applications a lot faster or a lot earlier in the process than some of the students on the East Coast. So there's no panic. You can start that application August 1st, but you can wait till you go back to school to talk to your counselor about getting that transcript to us.
Okay, and then I know in the past, the essay question that Indiana asks is about why you are interested in going to Indiana, and they don't look at the Common App essay. Is that still the case for this upcoming fall?
That is still the case for this upcoming fall. If there is something that you need us to know that would be in the Common App essay, make sure you either put it in the supplemental piece or reach out to your admissions counselor. If it's something you want us to know about COVID-19, the Common App is adding, and so is the coalition, they're adding that question to the application. We will take a look at that if there's something specific about that you want us to know.
Okay, so just a good piece of advice for everyone. Here's my free advice. While you're on this webinar and while, Randy answers your questions and while Rob talks, definitely take notes because it is important. They want to see why you're interested in Indiana. So if you're learning about the school now, it's going to help you write that essay question in the future to put in some of the facts and figures and information and fit that you learned through this presentation and through your own research outside of this. So this little kind of helping you not waste time right now and getting ahead. So okay, so yeah, we do have some questions. Do you want me to read them and have you answer them, or? Okay. Is there a pre-physician assistant track offered?
So yeah, that's kind of what I was stating earlier. It is more of a track. So those students would definitely want to get in contact with our health professions and pre-law center advising. What they're going to do is they're going to make sure that you're taking those appropriate additional courses to apply to, I believe it's an additional 2 years for a physician assistance program. A lot of students will come and they'll major in something in our public health, such as exercise science or something like that.
Great. What percentage of students are out of state?
So that is going to be about 40%, a little bit less than 40%.
Okay, and we'll have Rob in a minute, student, talk a little bit about like the culture of being an out-of-stater. Is admission into the business school more competitive?
So yes and no. That's a tough question to answer because yes, you are applying to Indiana as a whole, and there are two ways to get into the business school. You can either be a direct admit, which would be a little bit more competitive as an incoming freshman just because the standards are higher. If a student was applying this year, for example, they would need to be admitted to IU, have a minimum of a 3.8 GPA, a minimum of a 1370 on the SAT, or a 30 on the ACT. If they didn't meet that, then there are ways to petition. If the petition is not successful, and I know Rob can talk about this too.
Yeah, for sure.
You can come in as a student once you're on campus as well.
Okay, yeah, and I think Rob's great to have that because he didn't get in right away and still made it work while he was a student there.
Yeah, I can go through the whole process and everything when I talk.
Yeah, is for students that are applying to test optional, does that not include the Kelly Business School Direct?
So this is one of the things that we're still kind of hashing out and working out. All of the schools are going to be able to make their own decisions on whether or not they're going to be test optional or not. They're going to finalize all decisions prior to August 1. Currently, what Kelly is anticipating doing is that those students that apply test optional are just going to be required to submit that petition. Sometimes the petition comes with a negative connotation. It's not negative. A lot of students, I work with a lot of students that go to no GPA schools. So they had to petition anyway because they weren't supplying a GPA, which that's something that the Kelly School looks at. So it's going to be the same thing. Tip for petitioning. this year and last year, a little bit more than 50% of the students that petitioned were offered direct admission to Kelly. So it's worth it to petition. It's also very much worth it to pay attention to deadlines, because you can petition to Kelly without having been offered admission to Indiana. So if you know you don't meet their guidelines, you apply to Indiana. As soon as you get your student ID number, you fill out that petition form for Kelly.
Yeah, I know that's a little confusing for students, so definitely like read it online and reach out to Brandy if you have any questions. Can you send in your SAT or ACT score after November 1st if they aren't available before that?
That's a tough question to answer right now as well, because we know that testing is not available for a lot of students. And that's a question that we are still working out the details on. The good news is, again, we're going test optional. We do have a date where if a student's already tested, so they have one score, but maybe you're not necessarily happy with that score, you can send us that score, and then you have until January 15th to send us new scores. So that's always been the case. Reach out to your counselor or check back with me in a few weeks as we kind of hash out these final guidelines as far as test scores go, to see what the final answer on that's gonna be. But because we moved test optional, I'm not sure they're going to have any leeway on that.
Is the nursing school direct entry?
It is not. So it's the one of like 2 schools on our campus that's not direct entry.
Okay, great. Now I think we'll turn it over to Rob. I mean, obviously, if you guys have questions as we go for Brandy, we can kind of go back and forth, and I'll try to be the #1 moderator. The best of all time. All right, so I'm going to introduce Rob, who was a student of mine about 4 years ago, just finished his junior year at Indiana, and has an interesting route to getting to Indiana. So I'll turn it over to Rob.
Yeah, so I'll pretty much go over my background and like why I chose IU, also the vibe of IU versus like smaller schools that I visited, and like what like led to that decision, and also some stuff about standard admit process that I know a lot of people are concerned about. I mean, I was, so that was very important to me, especially when going to IU. So my name's Robert Natal. I'm from Kinnelon, New Jersey. I went to Don Bosco Prep in Ramsey, New Jersey. And at first I thought I really wanted a small school just because my high school was pretty small. And Jenna was trying to convince me, because Jenna went to Maryland. So she was all Terps all the way. And she was trying to convince me to look at a big school. And I was just kind of shutting it down the whole time. And I finally went out to Indiana just to visit, just as on a limb. And I ended up loving it. So there's probably 3 reasons why I chose Indiana. So I knew I always wanted to do business. And the business school was ranked number 4 at the time. It's still ranked top 10. And the business school itself is pretty comparable with a lot of the Ivies. I know it's opened up the door to a ton of companies. I had over 13 interviews for internships this year. And I'll go into more of that in terms of job placement that they do, and they do a fantastic job. So definitely was the Kelly School was my number 1 reason. The second reason is that there's just like a certain charm to IU. It's a big campus. I know, like, being from the East Coast, Indiana is not really like a place you think about going to school. And I can definitely say it's not like the perceived notion of it just being a bunch of cornfields. It's pretty comparable, like the town itself, to Ridgewood, New Jersey, if anyone's ever been there. It's super nice. It has its own little charm. A bunch of small, like, family shops make the campus what it is. And the campus is pretty big, but a lot of your classes will be very close to each other, and it's very manageable. And then the last reason is definitely for the sports. So Big Ten sports are the way to go. I really wasn't into basketball, but yeah, going to Indiana, it's what they breathe over there. So basketball is really fun, and football has been really interesting too. Now to go more into like the vibe at IU. So there's like 2 different kind of vibes. So there's like the north part of campus and the south part. The north part's really like where the business school is, the tech school. So there's a lot more people. It's very like more formal, like people are wearing suits and stuff. And then you go to the south part of campus, it's very like nature like. I know Indiana is always in the top 10 or top 15 for most beautiful campuses, and it really lives up to that name. So yeah, my mom comes to visit me. She loves going to the campus. My brother goes to U Miami, and I don't know. I think I won her over with IU as being a better campus, but you know, Other than that, I was a standard admit to the Kelly School. So what that means is that I did not get in direct admit and my petition was denied. I can just tell you my test score. My test score was like a 1220, so it wasn't that good. And but my GPA was still there. So Jenna was
good, Rob. It didn't get in right away.
yeah, it's all good. But yeah, you can definitely like make that transition from the university division into the business school, which I mean, I'm living proof. And I actually mentor a bunch of students right now that are trying to get into the business school, as well as I'm something called a peer-to-peer mentor for Kelly first years. So I also mentor the direct admits. So I know a lot about the pretty much the Kelly School and about the admission process. I also work for the admissions and study abroad. Some interesting things that I've done at Kelly and at IU. So a class I took was all about the economics of the EU, and a part of the class fee, I actually got to travel to Italy last year and and we went to like 3 different designers. I know there's one that they go to Louis Vuitton in France. Like they do a lot of cool stuff. I also studied abroad in Madrid, which was the best time of my life. I definitely recommend anyone to do that because it's an awesome experience. And IU really provides their students with just enough support to do anything you want to do. Now, getting into the standard admit process for Kelly, which I know a lot of people are very concerned about. So there's 2 criteria that you need. So you need a 3.5 GPA in school, so taking your courses throughout your first year of college. And you also need nothing below a B. So, and you can't drop a class or you get moved to a whole separate pile, which I had to drop a class called calculus because it's not that good at calc. So I dropped calc, took it again, got a B. So yeah, if you have those 2 criteria, you'll automatically be admitted. But if you don't, you get moved to another pile, which was me. So it's pretty much your application is pretty much sent in front of a group of people that are all part of Kelly, and they just review it. And since that was my only class, I had a 3.55 my first year. And yeah, other than that, like I got in pretty easily, and it was a great transition. The university division does a great job of helping you and pretty much giving you a realistic vision of what you would pretty much if you're getting in or not. I also talked to the Kelly School myself. I was there probably about 6 or 7 times, just trying to get my name out there. So I definitely agree with Brandy about teachers, faculty, just getting your name out there and kind of making it personable. So my freshman year, I actually made friends with one of my teachers, and he ended up getting me into one of his other classes, more of like a junior level class as a freshman, which is not really heard of there. I did really well in it, but like, it's just like the relationships you build, you make what you put into it. So that's like something that a lot of people ask me about is like, is it personable or is it just like, are you a number? And you're definitely not a number. That was one of the big concerns that I had, especially going to a big school, was like, am I going to be a number? And it's really what you put into it. So that's a little bit about me. I can answer any questions regarding the business school. I have a lot of friends that are education majors and a lot of friends that are trying to be doctors. So I can answer some of the questions on those because I hang out with them a lot and I see what they're going through. So any other questions would be awesome.
I don't think we have questions right now, but Rob, can you talk a little bit about getting from New Jersey to Indiana and what that's like for people, the travel?
Yeah. So like flight time, drive time, or like transition, which
all of those things.
Okay, so the drive is about 10.5 hours. I just drove last weekend because I was moving into an apartment. The flight's only an hour and 15 minutes, so that's like the most awesome part. And just like the difference is definitely the people and the atmosphere. So I know being from New Jersey, everyone's pretty harsh here and pretty blunt, but in Indiana, everyone's super nice and everyone's just trying to help you. I know going to like high school, everyone's super competitive. I mean, everyone's competitive in business school, but everyone's there for each other. So I work on a lot of teams. So one thing that definitely stands out for me is like the Kelly School. I'm on a lot of teams. I worked at Merrill Lynch my freshman year, and the Kelly School definitely put me ahead of a lot of students. So I worked with kids from Villanova and Providence College. And I felt like my skills were a lot better than theirs, especially in Excel. IU definitely stresses their Excel skills. So that's definitely something different. But in terms of personality, there's something called Hoosier hospitality, which I learned pretty quickly. And they live up to their name of just being very nice people.
So I think a lot of people, think about joining a fraternity, and I've just heard before that it's like, oh, you have to go to Indiana and join a
Mhm.
frat, or you're not going to have any fun. So I know that you're not a fraternity and still have fun. So can you talk a little bit about like what you do for fun and what goes on in the weekends?
Yeah, so I'm not in a fraternity because I was trying to get into business school my freshman year, which anyone who I mentor, I tell them straight up, I'm like, listen, the fraternity takes up I would say about 90% of your time at IU. So if you really are going to like try, I would not join a frat your freshman year. Um, but yeah, for like fun stuffs I do, I go to a lot of sporting events. I'm very involved in basketball and football. So, I mean, we're about to make the tournament this year for like the first time in 3 years, and that didn't happen. But other than that, like, I mean, there's a bunch of parties and stuff that go on around campus. Like, you're not going to be bored if you're not a fraternity. There's 40,000 kids there. You're not gonna be bored.
Okay. And then what about like Indianapolis? I know there's a lot going on in that city nearby. I guess are there like weekend trips that people take and to get out of the town if they want to?
Yeah, so I went to I went to Nashville, Tennessee. I went to Louisville, Kentucky. So Nashville's about 4.5 hours. Louisville's about an hour and 15. I want to go to Kentucky Derby. That's like on my bucket list. And then Indianapolis is super nice. It's like a super quiet New York City. I went to a bunch of Pacers games, so like basketball and Colts, and the tickets are super cheap. It's like $50 to go to a Colts game. So those were like the trips I take. All my friends are sports fans, and my best friend's from Southern Indiana. So he's definitely from a small town, and that's what we do a lot of small town things when I go back home with him.
That's cute. Somebody asked, how has Indiana helped you set up a career for after college?
Yeah, so I can just go into like the whole recruiting process and stuff for college. So I was supposed to work with United Airlines. I was supposed to move to Chicago, and obviously from COVID that completely shut that down. But in terms of the resource centers that IU has, and especially Kelly, like you're just so much above everyone else. I know they have I think it's the #2 alumni network. I think Penn State's #1 in terms of just sheer size. We also have like Mark Cuban. We have a bunch of famous alumni, and it's just opened up the door to so many like different companies. Again, like I had like over 13 interviews. I had an offer from Bank of America. I was interviewing at Goldman Sachs. I had all these other interviews. So just the reputation that IU carries is just such a heavy weight. So it really opens the door for a lot of companies to come in.
That's incredible. I'm very proud of you, Rob.
Thank you, Jenna.
I see your
Yeah,
growth.
you got the cool shirt for being hired. It says Kelly hired on it, you know?
You got a free shirt?
You know, they give it a lot of merch there. I'm not going to lie. Like Indiana, I have probably about like 30 t-shirts that I didn't even pay for just from going to like the football and basketball games.
So I
So that's
graduated
another
college.
plus.
I graduated college 9 years ago with the intention right after to make a t-shirt blanket. And because I have like 30, 40 t-shirts, and it's still in this box of I'm going to make a t-shirt blanket.
Yeah,
And it's
insane.
ridiculous because at this point, like it's going to be year 10. I don't know if my sorority t-shirts like matter anymore, but it's all going to go in a blanket, and I'll do it. So that's a
Yeah,
good
no,
idea.
it's really insane. I'm only in my senior year now, so it's hopefully I get more.
Yeah, it's a good idea to make it into a blanket.
Yeah, so is there any other questions like
Yeah, I have
that?
somebody asked internship opportunities. So I guess like you just spoke about internship
I
opportunities,
can go for
but
like the big companies that recruit if that's like what you want me to go into.
yeah, and then also another, because I hear all the buzz of what people say. There's a misconception that if you go to a school in the Midwest that you're not going to get the New York City connections. So talk a little bit about the recruiting, the companies, but then also for non-business majors too.
Yeah, so we'll start off with business majors. So I recruited in Chicago. I had a job offer in Chicago, a job offer in New York, and a job offer in North Carolina. So it's not just limited to the Midwest. Obviously, they have a ton of connections just being out there, but a lot of these companies are Deloitte. So like all the big four. Then you can work for companies like Eli Lilly. So I'm recruiting full time for Eli Lilly right now to work there full time just because I love Indiana so much. And yeah, but yeah, you're not just stuck to the Midwest like that whole misconception. Sorry, my brother's here. He's putting up his youth on. I'm gonna think. Like,
Just for
all about you, baby.
yeah,
It's all about the you.
Just from a numbers perspective.
Sorry about that. You know, to give a little bit of a rivalry here, because hopefully we play them in the Big Ten ACC Challenge and just ruin them.
We did a Miami presentation 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, Brandy.
Okay. Just from a numbers perspective, New York is our number 3 area to send students for internships and jobs. Of course, number 1 would be Indianapolis, followed by Chicago, and then New York. So it is very possible for us to get you back out here. And on that same, as far as like who's coming to IU, New Jersey is always number 2 for out of state, and New York at the top 4. California is also in the top 3, 4 as well. So we get both coasts very well represented on our campus.
Okay.
Yeah, and like a bunch of, I have to say, I've met probably around 60 or 70 kids from New Jersey. So a lot of them from Livingston's, I know, a huge area that IU recruits from, especially for their schools. Yeah, but also to like continue about like non-majors, I know there's a lot of research opportunities for people in like the medical field. So, but I know a lot more about the business just because I'm around it more.
That's great. I know you touched upon this a little bit, but maybe just to go back, we have a lot of high school seniors, so kind of think back to your time and your process of applying and how you came to Indiana. I know I don't only promote big schools, but I know based on what you were looking for that they had that at a big school. So I thought it was a good fit for you. So I tried to, for my clients and everyone else, just try to give them what's the best fit for them. So maybe the misconception of a big school and knowing that you can make it smaller and how that all played out and what advice you have for seniors that are going through this right now.
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely the misconception is that just, again, big school, you're just a number, and just completely not true. Just speaking from experience, a lot of my friends go to smaller schools, and I can tell you that like some of my classes are actually smaller than theirs. So especially when you're into your major, I've had classes where I only had 12 or 13 students in. So once you're like high level, like finance and business analytics classes. But other than that, like what led me to, again, IU is just the Kelly School, the sports, and just the whole atmosphere. You definitely have to go visit it to see what like the whole charm about it. But again, like best decision I made was going to IU.
Great. And Brandy might know this, but Rob, you might know it too. Somebody asked, how many students are in the business school?
So per grade or just total?
Not sure.
Okay, so like, yeah, per grade, I know my class is around 2,000. The class above me was 1,800. So it's pretty small. Like it's pretty much like a community. Each school has their own like knit group pretty much. Yeah, so total is
about 6,000 total.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know if we have any more questions. I'm trying to think if there's anything, Brandy, that we want to touch upon. I know we have some Jewish students in here and a few have. So do you maybe want to talk about the Jewish student life at Indiana? Maybe that's for Brandy, because I don't think that's Rob.
Sure. So it's another one of those things that's a misconception about the Midwest. And we are very welcoming to our students from the East Coast that are Jewish. One of the biggest areas of support on campus for our students is probably the Hallel. The Hallel is where our students have their own community for them. It's ran by Rabbi Sue, who is a wonderful lady. She's kind of like a second mom to all of our students. And I always joke and say, but it's absolutely true, that if you're missing home cooking, she's a fantastic cook. She makes some great bread. But it's probably our biggest area of support on campus for our students. It's one of those things we don't ask students to report on campus, but I would say of those that do, we are probably looking at about a 12% Jewish population on campus, which is a pretty significant number for our students. Many of them are coming from the East Coast. So many of our students already know each other whenever they come to campus. So it's a great and welcoming community for our students, not only on campus, but also in the Bloomington community as well. One thing that I will say is usually a follow-up question to that is, do you have a kosher meal plan? We unfortunately do not have a kosher meal plan at this time. It is something that is in the works, but we do not. We do offer meals for, the high holidays and things like that students can get at Hillel. We have a very welcoming community of Jewish individuals that welcome students into their homes as well, kind of those connections that we were talking about. So definitely taking advantage of that, but unfortunately no 100% kosher meal plan on campus.
Somebody asked what percentage our students are in Greek life?
About 20%.
Okay. Another question that I popped in my mind, Rob, maybe for you. Do you want to go over a little bit more about the dining and housing for students?
Yeah, so freshman year, you live on campus. So I lived in a dorm called Reed. It was like one of the newer renovated ones. And I know they're doing a bunch of new dorms because they're admitting a lot more students now. And the dining process is pretty standard in terms of you have like a meal card and you don't do swipes. It's more of like cash, but it's like a weird system where they have, if you're a student, you get like 60% off. They have this whole like weird system that's going on, but it's pretty like easy to like know back, like once you start school. So yeah, you get like a certain amount. So I think a lot of people do like $2,000 on it, which is like your meal points or something like that. And other than that, like a lot of their dining halls are really good. So there's about, where I live, there's like 3 dining halls within a 5-minute walk. So I know the misconception is that like big schools are so big that it takes forever to walk, and it's just not true. There's also a busing system at IU, which a lot of people don't know about. So there's 3 lines of buses that'll take you all around campus, which makes it like super easy to get around. So nothing's been more than like a 5 or 10 minute walk or bus ride.
Great.
I answered one question, but then the second question came up when it was pretty similar to the first one. So I thought that I would just address it. As far as like food allergies, gluten-free options and things like that. Yes, very accommodating on campus to those situations. Gluten-free has obviously become very much a necessity in recent years. So those are definite options on campus. We also have nutritionists and dietitians that will work individually with students to make sure that they're having the appropriate access to foods on campus.
Is housing guaranteed for 4 years?
In a normal year, yes. That is the answer. This year it was not, because we had 3 residence halls that went offline to be renovated. The plan was for this year to go back to a 4-year guarantee. With COVID and the need for social distancing, we're still working out plans for what that's going to look like for next year. Ideally, by the time these seniors are applying, we are back to some kind of normalcy in our society. So we'll see.
Okay, great.
I can add to that in terms of like, there's a lot of, my freshman year I lived on campus, and I would say around, specifically for my friend group, I think say about like 80% of them moved off campus after, because all the housing is pretty close, especially for off campus. So that's like, you don't really need housing for 4 years just because it's probably cheaper to live off campus anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, Bloomington's such a college town, so everything revolves around the college, and so it's not like it's unsafe or far away or anything like that. So
Yeah, exactly.
at least that's what I hear. I haven't been. I know Rob has always messaged me saying, because I always am on different tours, and he's like, why aren't you coming to Indiana?
No,
One day. And I guess on that note, when, Brandy, do you think students will be able to get to Indiana? Or do you have any plans to open for tours?
To be determined. We are officially closed through August. Traditionally, we close for official visits that last week in August anyway, so that we can welcome our new students to campus. So I don't envision any earlier than September, if at that time we're even able to. Again, I get that question a lot, and I get students that say, well, can I come to campus anyway? As a mom, I say no, please stay home. Please follow your state guidelines as far as that's concerned. Campus is not closed. You can certainly come to campus and you can drive around. You will not be able to get into any of the buildings. So if you happen to be in the area, you want to drive around campus, you want to drive around Bloomington, it is an absolutely gorgeous place, and you will kind of get a sense But again, please follow those state and national guidelines as far as safety and travel go.
Great. Thanks, guys. Any final remarks?
Out to me if you have any questions or concerns. If you can't find your admissions counselor, I can also direct you to that individual as well. We do have several virtual options on campus. So there are information sessions, there are specific information sessions for the schools. The virtual tour is pretty good as well. So if you can't get to campus, make sure you check those things out.
Great. Yeah, the virtual tour is it's on the uvisit.com site or affiliated with that. So it is a nice 360 view of the campus with a virtual tour guide, and it does the job, but while we're all home. All right, so I'm just going to do a quick plug for the rest of my Spotlight Summer Series events. So we have a bunch of other Big Ten schools, hopefully no rivals here, although I guess we're talking to Purdue, so maybe that's your
August 20th, no one show up.
I'm so sorry. Had to give everyone equal love, you know. So here is the schedule for those who are around this summer to tune in. Anyone who missed any part of this presentation, I'm going to record. Rob, do you want to give out your email, your contact? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, you have my email, so if anyone reaches out to you, you can just give them to them.
And Brandy,
Again, I work with a ton of students trying to get into the business school, so I can definitely help you with a plan if you don't get in direct admit.
Yeah, you can do it. I think a lot of people sometimes even choose not to go to Indiana because they didn't get into Kelly right away, even though they loved Indiana the whole time. And Rob is living proof that you can transfer in to the Kelly School of Business, even if you go in right away as a non-business school major. It is possible. Living proof. So thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great rest of your night, and be sure to check out the other webinars, but not Purdue. I'm just kidding.
Exactly. No, that's the way to do it, you know?
Okay, awesome. Go Hoosiers. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.